Healing Word or Cure Wounds? Which one do you use? For today's DnDaily vlog, I really wanted to touch on a subject I've been meaning to get to for quite a while. And I just feel like talking a little bit about healing in Dungeons & Dragons 5e is probably worthwhile, as it should be a good bit of information. And this is, again, just my perspective. It doesn't mean I'm right. It's just the way I see things. And, actually, before I forget, and while I'm thinking about it, I do want to thank Conflict Magazine for the amazing story and fantastic comments on the video the other day, or yesterday, I should say, because when we're talking about, the fact that, hey, DMs are players too, Conflict Magazine told a great story about the 10,000 orcs. I recommend you go check that video out and check the comments so you can learn about that silly story as well. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now back to the subject at hand, which is, of course, healing in 5e. So generally speaking, I want to start with like kind of a broad overview, and then I'll touch in on Healing Word and Cure Wounds and what I mean about why are we even talking about it? What's the question? What is there a question? Healing in 5e is very interesting, and I feel like it comes down to essentially three styles. And the three styles are this, as far as I see them. One is the healer who hangs on to their healing spells until someone in the party goes down. And by going down, I mean goes to 0 hit points. Then, when they are actually unconscious, they use their healing magic to return them to consciousness. Now, that's not to say that they're going to stay in the fight very long if the fight goes on for very long. However, it'll get them back on their feet at least momentarily and keep them from outright dying, which is great, right? That's a good way to prevent the characters from actually getting killed in combat. So that's one way I think I see healers playing in the game these days. The second one is someone who is like literally dedicated to actually being a good healer. These are pretty much going to have to be life domain clerics. Now, there are other classes that could be like primary healers that have a really strong focus in healing. It could possibly be done with a paladin, although that would be interesting to see that happen. It can be done as a druid. Druids make pretty solid healers, and it's possible to do as a bard. But then again, see, now we start getting into maybe the third type of a cleric. And for me, the third type of a cleric is going to be a cleric or a healer. Let's say a healer. Doesn't have to be a cleric, but the third type of healer is the type that is sort of a utility healer, is what I want to call them. That is to say that they mix it up. They do a little bit of healing, they do a little bit of combat. Or they do a little bit of healing and they do a little bit of, say, utility stuff like buffs and debuffs and that kind of thing. Things like, from, of course, Critical Role. Caduceus is a great example. He does quite a bit. In fact, he does a lot of healing. He also does things like Bane and Bless, which really help the party out, okay? So those are some things that I mean when I'm saying utility healer, right? Someone who does other stuff, Sanctuary and so forth. These other spells that help the party out, and also then when they need to, they throw in some heals. Okay, so that's kind of the three types of healers I see in the game. This is just my opinion again. Now, when it comes down to like, why Healing Word or why Cure Wounds? Why would you pick one over the other? Or why would you use one over the other? I think it comes down to this. And I think when we look at those three types, it'll become real clear. So, Cure Wounds requires you to touch, to place your hand on the creature or the person that you're going to heal, right? So you have to be right next to them. You have to be close to them. And it does more healing than Healing Word. So it does D8 plus your healing modifier, right? Plus your wisdom modifier. Or, well, I guess for bards it would be charisma. But anyway, plus your spell casting modifier. So that could be quite a bit. I mean, that could be potentially just at first level. That could be like 10 or 12 hit points healed. That's quite a bit. Whereas Healing Word is only a D4 plus your healing modifier. So somewhere in the range of, let's say, 6 to 8, kind of in the max at first level. So that might not seem like much when, when the opponents are doing 10 or 12 or 20 damage in one shot. Well, if you're only healing someone 8 or 10 or 12 points, why? What's the point, right? You might ask. Well, here's the thing. A strict healer, like I said, the second type of healer, someone who is a very highly focused healer and is intent on keeping the party in good stay as far as how much hit points they have, they're not going to be usually using a first level healing unless they just want to give a little blip to someone. They're usually going to be doing like third or fifth or whatever they have access to. And of course, at that point, then they get access to things like, prayer of healing or other such spells that maybe are going to help, or mass cure wounds and this kind of thing. So those are interesting things at higher level. At low level, you have to decide, are you going to be the kind of cleric who is a utility cleric who stands back? Because then you probably want to use Healing Word. And Healing Word, in my opinion, is possibly the better of the two spells. Let me explain why. This, again, I said this is a huge topic. I'm barely just going to scrub the surface of this, but I think there's a couple of little nuggets that we can glean from this. So Cure Wounds is great when you want to try to give a good little bump to someone's hit points, right? But you have to touch them. In that case, you might want to be someone who is more of a melee cleric, or perhaps like paladin or bard who likes to be in the front line, and then if someone goes down, can take a moment, reach over, help your friend get up with some hit points and continue the fight. However, if you are the type that likes to hang back and maybe you want to use your cantrips to cast spells that way, or you're going to use your blessing or your boosts, your buffs, your whatever you want to call them, bane or blessing, those are the two most common, of course. If you want to stand back and do that kind of thing, Healing Word is your best friend, because now you can heal someone from afar. You don't have to be right next to them. And here's an even better trick with Healing Word. Healing Word is a bonus action. So with Healing Word, you can heal your friends, and then you can still attack with a weapon. Let's say you have a crossbow, or let's say you have a mace or whatever, a warhammer, whatever it is. Or you can fall back onto your cantrips. The cantrips like Sacred Flame or Toll the Dead. They're sort of a hit and miss. They're not super effective, but cantrips scale. So even at higher levels, like let's say when you get to 5th level, your cantrips are doing 2 dice worth of damage. Well, if it's Toll the Dead and the opponent has already been damaged, that's 2d12 as a cantrip. And you can still cast a bonus action of Healing Word. So, I don't know. For me, Healing Word gives you a little more bang for the buck because it's a little more versatile. Because you can stay out of melee combat if you choose and still heal your friends, or if people spread out so you're not all clustered, which is usually a good idea because you don't want to get breath weaponed or you don't want to get fireballed or whatever. When you spread out, you can still sort of stay in position and revive the downed character, or maybe give a little boost to that character that's getting close. Someone's down to, let's say they've dropped below 20 or they've dropped below double digits, and you want to just give them a little kick up. You give them a Healing Word with a bonus action and still do something else. And I've seen this quite often where, for whatever reason, you get caught up in the moment. I've probably done this myself. A lot of times we might use a Healing Word and forget, like, oh yeah, let me still do my cantrip, or let me still make an attack, or what have you. But that's the beauty of Healing Word. And here's a final trick. If you stayed this long into the video, here's another trick that you might not know about. There's another bonus action, which is beautiful, that you can get at second level. That's Healing Spirit. Healing Spirit takes concentration, but you can keep healing people, and it can be moved. It's a sweet spell. If you don't know about it, please check it out. I love that spell. Kyra, our druid in the Adject crew playing on Thursday nights, she has been using that to amazing success. It's a very potent spell and very useful. So I felt like at some point I should come in and talk a little bit about healing. There's more that I want to say about this, and yet I wanted to keep this as sort of a simple, concise video and really kind of focus in on Healing Word and Cure Wounds. And so keep that in mind. If you're a primary healer and you want to give people a big boost, low levels, even higher levels, because it does scale up. So, you know, second level, third level, wherever you go, that spell is going to increase in its potency. So Cure Wounds could be a nice boost. And same thing for Healing Word. Healing Word scales up, and remember, you can cast it at range. So, I mean, those two spells, which you get at first level, even if you're not a healer, in my opinion, if you have access to Healing Word, you should have that in your spell list. Even if you're not the main healer, or if you don't even think of yourself as a healer. If you have access to Healing Word, please take Healing Word. And Cure Wounds, again, that's the one that like can really save someone's bacon and give them enough to maybe even stay in the fight for real. So Cure Wounds is, you know, you have to figure out what's your play style and decide what's best for you. For me, my money goes to Healing Word. However, if I have access, I always have them both in my spell list. Yeah, that's the way I see it. I would love to hear your opinions. Of course, we'll maybe carry on this conversation another time where we talk about like healing up as you go up through the levels into the higher level casters and so forth. But for now, let me know what you think about Healing Word versus Cure Wounds. Which is your favorite? Which do you prefer? And let's talk about it in the comments here on the video. Stay tuned because I'm going to be giving you the information for the Discord channel, the 1 in 20 D&D Discord channel, where we talk mostly about the games we're running, but also about the videos here and anything else, D&D, Star Wars, RPG, whatever. And I will get that to you just as soon as I have everything set up, which should be in a day or two. So keep your eyes open for that. In the meantime, hey, check out one of these videos right here. And remember, it's your game. Play your way. Before I do that, actually, while I'm thinking about it, I want to remember to thank Conflict Magazine. Yep,